All righty. Yay.
Did you send me that link?
Yes, I did. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll get started in just a minute. I promise we'll keep you in and out. This is the way to rally. Woohoo. We're going to get started in a minute. I've got a cool video to play. Hang on 1 second.
We do have somebody with just a phone number. If they could go ahead and change the phone number and put their name on there, that would be really appreciated.
Which end of that moral arc could they choose? I wonder if more would have walked in his shoes. This is what revolution looks like. You gotta get in and then stay in this fight. You've got to find a way to get in the way. Speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, do what you can, just shine your light brighter. They called him a saint among men, a founding father, an icon, a legend. Ordinary people with such extraordinary vision in a country so young, hard pressed on every single side, but not crushed, saying in God, love, and justice we trust. This is what revolution looks like. You gotta get in and then stay in this fight. You got to find a way to get in the way. Speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, do what you can, just shine your light brighter. Make good trouble every chance you get. Eyes on the prize, we're not finished yet. Don't tolerate injustice, my friends. Call them out, but then call them in. If you see something that's not right, not fair, stand up and say we can do better. He said, I may not be with you when we reach the other side, so let the power of love everlasting be your guide. 'Cause this is what revolution looks like. You gotta get in, then stay in this fight. This is what revolution looks like. Get in and then stay in this fight. You've got to find a way to get in the way. Speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, do what you can, just shine your light brighter. Make good trouble every chance you get. Eyes on the prize, we're not finished yet. Don't tolerate injustice, my friends. Call them out, but then call them in, call them in. Find a way to get in the way. Speak out every day. Make good trouble every chance you get. Make good trouble every chance you get. Make good trouble every chance you get.
Our chat feature is off for this particular call. We normally have it on. It's off today, but so I can't type in the chat and individually message people. If you happen to have a phone number on there, please switch it to your name. Otherwise, I'm going to remove you from the meeting simply because we're very mindful of people trolling.
There might be one number and I might know who it is, and she may have some technical difficulties. So I'll check the number and message you, Anna. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight for our Recess Can Wait, our Democracy Can't here in Florida. This is a fun way to rally. We're having a Florida rally tonight. I think you probably are aware there's some pretty big things happening at the nation's capital and around Florida. So we're going to break it down. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let me pull up the presentation. Give me 1 second here. And if I'm looking up, it's because my monitor's up above. So give me a second here. All righty. And we did disable the chat because we didn't know how many we were going to get or how many we were able to monitor to the chat, but we do have the question feature. So if you have any questions, you still are able to ask questions and you're welcome to send those over. Our presentation is going to be about 30-40 minutes, and then we'll be able to send over the slides and information to you talking about things that we can do to impact change in our state. We're going to hear some really good things that have been happening recently in our state. So really excited to share that. Second here. All right, so thank you again for joining us tonight. I'm on here tonight with my co-leader, Anna, with Broward for Progress, and we also co-lead Florida Voices for Progress. Just a reminder, this call is being recorded. Let me just double check here. Yes, it is being recorded. And for folks that don't know, my name is Lori Woodward Garcia. As I mentioned, I am the co-leader along with Anna of Broward for Progress, and we are a member of the Indivisible Florida Network, and we co-lead Florida Voices for Progress as well. Just a little bit about me and a little bit of my journey here for folks that aren't familiar. I won't play the whole thing, but just share a little bit. It is my duty to fight for my family and all families. It is my duty to fight for my child and for all children. It is my duty to fight for my family and my community. It is my duty to stand up to racism, xenophobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, homophobia, misogyny, elitism, ageism, ableism, and bigotry. It is my duty to hold all electeds and candidates accountable and ensure they listen to the will of the people. It is my duty to see something and to say something, regardless of party affiliation. I must be willing to speak out and speak up to hold all accountable. It is my duty to help elect candidates that reflect the diversity of my community and will represent us with a fierce determination to root out all forms of hatred and bigotry, and to ensure that all in our community can live a life full of dignity, respect, and the ability to thrive.
I'm voting for the soul of this country.
I'm voting for healthcare.
I'm voting for my right to own my body.
Better public education.
Immigration.
Equality.
My child's future.
Gun control.
Prison reform.
I'm voting for the passage of the Disability Integration Act.
Equal rights, civil rights, especially for people of color, but especially for LGBTQ folk.
Medicare.
Social justice.
I am standing up against racism, xenophobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, ageism, ableism, misogyny, and bigotry. I have a lot of privilege as an older white woman
And so I realize now that I can use that privilege to help those, to lift up their stories and their voices.
It is sorry. So a little bit about tonight's program. So we're talking about the For the People Act. And for folks that don't know, the For the People Act is, I know many folks have been hearing about it, but we should just sort of break down a little bit about what it is. Hang on one second here. Sorry, my notes went to the side there. One second. Give me a second. My screen just went, okay. Okay, sorry about that. So the For the People Act is really a transformational bill that is in front of Congress right now. And I think you can agree that no matter where we live, the money in our bank account, what we look like, most Americans want transparent elections that we can trust, where we all have the freedom to vote, where we have a say in issues like healthcare, jobs, and justice. We can achieve this, but only if the Senate right now, as we speak, gets to work on this. The Senate must act swiftly to pass national standards for federal elections that ensure that we all can safely and freely cast our ballots. The freedom to vote is under attack by extremist state lawmakers across this country who want to put up deliberate barriers to make it harder to vote, especially for people of color. And by August 16th, which is just around the corner, the US Census Bureau is expected to release their final census data, which allows states to begin drawing new maps for state and federal districts. The For the People Act would ensure fair districting, keep our communities whole, and ensure our communities can thrive for the next 10 years and beyond. As a matter of fact, I am sitting in one of the disputed districts that was gerrymandered, two that were in a court case, and it got redrawn 5 years after our legislators drew it last time. The For the People Act is a sweeping package that will help to realize the promise of our democracy. It will get big money out of politics. It ensures our freedom to vote and guarantees that congressional districts are drawn to give fair representation to all. We need the Senate to pass this act before the August recess, and we need the president to use every lever of power and influence at his disposal to get this done. We cannot, again, I cannot stress this enough, we cannot let Republican senators who blocked an investigation into a deadly attack on our Capitol use the same loophole, which is the filibuster, to block legislation that the majority of Americans across political spectrum have demanded to protect our freedom to vote. The Senate must not let anything stand in their way for passing the For the People Act. This is how we move forward, assured that our elected leaders govern in our name and deliver what the people need, from pandemic relief to racial justice and climate action. So we're going to break down just briefly for folks that don't know. I know there's been a lot of discussion, but I want to update a little bit about the For the People Act. So the first thing is what it does is, before we get into the wherewithal, is to talk about what it really means as a democracy. You know, we believe in this country that people have the right, duty, and the ability to govern ourselves. And this term of self-governance is a culture of responsibility amongst all of us. In fact, you're the citizens that are leading that responsibility. It is widely accepted norm that our citizens can and should take care of our public decision making. People must believe, and I'm going to stress this, people must believe that they have the right and the ability to govern themselves. If you and I stop believing these things, then self-government is effectively dead. If we don't believe that we have the ability to govern ourselves, then we are giving up. Now, sometimes people can give up on these things, and even if the rituals are still observed. So again, it's worth repeating. If we stop believing these things, self-government is effectively dead. So the For the People Act would help with gerrymandering. You can see on the left that this was the election. The red represents people that voted for the red blocks and the blue. And this middle block here shows what can happen with gerrymandering. And to the right is an extreme example of how the red can take over the blue by just drawing different line on the map, if you will. So the For the People Act would address this. Additionally, it would seek to remove dark money. You know, we are very familiar with that here in the state of Florida. We've seen dark money in elections here time and time again. So it would eliminate that. Additionally, it would expand accessibility. And what that means is accessibility in number of days, number of hours, voting locations, drop boxes. It could possibly, if we fight hard enough, make it a national holiday, which is amazing. It would also expand more drop boxes. Unfortunately, we have lawmakers that are trying to actually reduce the number of drop boxes that we have. So voter suppression is real. And we've seen that even though we had one of the most successful turnouts in this nation of elections in our last presidential election, high voter turnout, despite being in a worldwide pandemic, the reality is we've seen more anti-voting laws pop up in state after state. And this is extremely dangerous. I'm just gonna play a short video to talk about where we're at with some of those bills, and particularly what is happening right now in Congress. Sorry.
We can't hear that, Lori.
Yeah, I'm just, give me 1 second, I'm noticing that as well.
President Trump saw in Georgia was that when people have access to the ballot box, communities turn out.
When you look at this suppression today, how much of it do you think is fundamentally racist, which echoes this whole march since the 60s? And how much of it is just bare-knuckled partisanship, which may or may not be legal as we live through a time where democracy itself has been challenged so much?
What former President Trump saw in Georgia was that when people have access to the ballot box, communities turn out, and they elected Democrats as senators from Georgia. And his response was, we're going to make it harder for Black Georgians to vote and Black Americans all over the country. And these efforts are not just targeted at Black Americans, but other minority communities, the Native Americans, and college students. And so it's a very targeted effect. They know that if they can force people to vote on election day, that there's time-tested strategies to make turnout low by reducing the number of precinct voting places, changing their location, putting where there's no parking, understaff them so people have to wait for 5 or 6 hours in line, putting out false information about the date and location. They know these things, and so they are trying to cheat Americans out of the right to vote. So much of it is targeted at Black Americans. There is a fundamentally racist element to it.
And we've also been keeping an eye on this looming vote that we're told would be in the Congress here. I want to read about sort of slimming down that John Lewis Act. Chuck Schumer reportedly telling you and your caucus you'd have these voting rights votes within days, and that they would trim the ethics provisions from the original bill, scale back the mandates for automatic voter reg, excise a public campaign financing system for senators, which is a big deal, but kind of a separate issue, and backing off this attempt to change the composition of the FEC. It's a mouthful of what's cut out, and then by implication, there's still plenty left in the bill. What does this strategy mean of having a slimmed down version? And what would your response be to some skeptics who might be watching tonight and say, well, if you're still waiting on Republicans and it's going to be that kind of thing, then how are you ever going to get any of this out without reforming the filibuster?
So there are 3 basic missions. One is to stop the dark money so that billionaires cannot buy elections, hiding from the American public. The second goal is to stop gerrymandering. And there is intense conversation among Republicans right now about basically gerrymandering on steroids. And they know that in just 4 states, they can gerrymander another 6 to 13 seats. That would be a 26-vote swing in the House. They already feel like they have about a 15-seat advantage. That is a 30-seat swing as it is. In other words, the margin, which is 8 seats right now, should be about 38 if there was equal representation. And so this is extremely important. And then defending the ballot. And that means early voting. That means vote by mail. That means making sure that people have full access on election day as well. These things will all be well protected in the bill that we're producing. So you think of the first hurdle is we have to get a bill that 50 members agree to, even though they come from very different systems of voting. So lay out this national set of standards and these end to dark money and the end to gerrymandering. Lay that out and agree on it. And that's what we're working on right now. And I think we've narrowed it down from 100 issues to about 2 or 3, and we're working hard to resolve the final pieces. Then, when we are away from Washington, there's going to be an intense effort by several of our colleagues to recruit Republicans to join us, because they should join us. They swore an oath to the Constitution to defend the rights of Americans to vote. And if we come back and we do not have their support, then we have to find the path for 50 of us to get this done, unfortunately, without them. And I'm very confident we will find a way.
All right, so I'm going to stop right there and just to put a pin in that. That's where we're at this moment. They're probably going to vote on this in the next few days or start the beginning process. There is a belief that our senators here in Florida will join in on the filibuster. So first point of order is that if you believe in voting rights, please, I know our folks for Progress or Florida Voices for Progress, we encourage you to contact your senators on a regular basis. This is the time, this is go time. Really have these calls to them about voting rights, accessibility. And again, let's be clear, we're advocating for the voting accessibility for eligible voters. You know, the far right kind of calls out all of this nonsense. We're advocating for anybody that is eligible to vote should have access, should make it easy, and we shouldn't make it difficult in this state at all. That's the worst thing to do. So just listening to what he is talking about, just be aware that there is right now, and we're going to give you an update right now talking about what has happened with the different reconciliation bills and stuff like that. But be aware right now, the next few days, you will see that. So one thing to note is earlier today, I don't know if you've all been paying attention to the news, good news, we did have some great news. The Senate passed the $1 trillion infrastructure bill. And this approval, I know I see people like clapping, like, this is a big deal. Okay, that's a really big deal. This approval came after months of negotiations, and despite the budget concerns, it reflects an appetite in both parties for a long-awaited spending package. Now, something to note is, in addition to fighting for the People Act, the Build Back Better resolution has just come out. It has investments in jobs, care, climate, and a path to citizenship. It's been released and it's currently right now in Vote-A-Rama. So Vote-A-Rama is likely to be filled with all sorts of really bad faith anti-immigrant amendments and other bad amendments. So be on the lookout for calls to action to push back against that. But that's where we are right now with the Build Back Better resolution. Once that happens, the House will need to come back to DC in mid-August to take up the Build Back Better resolution, setting up the reconciliation path package to invest in jobs, care, climate, and a path to citizenship. Pressure. So not only are we going to need to pressure our senators for the People Act, we also need to pressure some Democrats here in the state of Florida, particularly ones that are part of the Problem Solvers Caucus, to remind them of the commitment of the Build Back Better package. We need them to stay strong on that. Congress must deliver, particularly here in Florida, a robust, equitable recovery by passing the Build Back Better reconciliation package. We need those investments here in Florida in jobs, care, climate, and especially a path to citizenship. This is critical, and we're targeting Castor, Demings, Deutsch, Murphy, of course, Rubio and Scott. So just be aware, we'll be sending out information, particularly now that we're coming into this crunch time. The recess is also a time, as we're kicking off here in Florida, there will be numerous events happening around the country to support the Build Back Better agenda. And I just want to stop for a minute and pull back for a second. We're going to hear from one of our counterparts that actually did an event earlier today. In fact, I think he just came back from it. Here in Florida, we've got a lot of great folks that are really putting pressure on lawmakers. So I want to hear from Mike Fox and hear how his event went today in Florida. Also part of what we're doing, which is pushing for Florida to thrive and supporting the For the People Act. Mike, if you want to share with folks what happened today, be appreciated.
I don't see Mike on the call. He was on the call earlier, but I don't see him on now.
Oh no, he jumped off?
Yeah, it might have been a technical issue, but.
Oh, okay. All right, that's okay. We'll go on. No problem. It's gonna be like, what happened? All right. So so as I said, the recess is under. So we have multiple events that you'll see building up. So the one that Mike was at earlier today was in St. Petersburg, I believe. They had a rally today calling out Congress to loud and clear support expanding, strengthening, expanding Medicare, providing universal preschool, reducing carbon emissions, clean energy, particularly here in Florida, making community college tuition free, increasing affordable housing, incentivizing electric vehicles, creating a pathway to citizenship for qualified immigrants, funding childcare for working families, establishing a civilian climate corps, that's critical here in Florida, and making sure that giant corporations and wealthiest Americans pay their share of taxes. Those are things that the overwhelming majority of Americans want, and particularly in Florida, we need to remind our lawmakers that we need them to support the Build Back Better agenda. All right, a Florida update. I'm going to pass it off to Anna. Anna, I would like you to share with folks where we're at right now.
We had some great news today in Broward County, and it's because of all y'all. Broward County School Board today voted 8-9 to enforce the mask mandates with no opt-out unless there's a medical condition, which a doctor's note would need to be provided. They defied the governor. And they mentioned several times during the meeting the 300 plus emails that they received. Thank you all. And They needed to know, one of the things that I think was very important, I mean, this is just my thought process, is that they were supported. We voted them into office and demand them to protect our children. And then we can't just let them go and leave them out to dry. We need to support them. So we showed up and we let them know that we were there. We had their backs. We supported them. And I truly believe that made a difference. We had lots of anti-maskers there, coughing on us, doing everything possible to try to intimidate us. But you know what? Most of us were moms that have dealt with temper tantrums. And so it kind of went, whoop. We were there for a reason. We don't instigate, we don't get in their faces, just like you would handle a 2-year-old. That's how I see things. But I'm very, very proud and very grateful of our county school board members for standing up to Ron DeSantis and I can't, I don't remember who said it, but somebody at one point said, "If you want to threaten me, bring it." And so it was defiance. They put their students, their employees above their own paychecks, because he has, as of today or yesterday, threatened to take their pay away if they voted for the mask mandates. So they put the public and the community before themselves. And that is a huge win. I came home and I cried. I cried because I kept thinking about all the lives that they saved and that they'll never know. They'll never know the people that they prevented from going into the ICU, the people that they prevented from having long haul symptoms. Sorry, I get emotional, but they literally saved lives today. They literally saved lives, and your voices made a difference. And so I thank you. I know our emails are annoying sometimes. I get it. I know that our calls for actions can be like, what, again? You want us to call again? I get it. But lives were saved today. I know that in my heart.
Thank you for sharing that, Anna. So yeah, big deal, particularly here in Florida, because you know what? This is the only state where a governor is threatening to remove funding from schools in the middle of a pandemic. This is the only state in the country that is threatening to withhold pay from school administrators. Even red states around the country have mandated masks. So it was a big deal here in Florida that, unfortunately, there has been a school district that has already started school and kind of caved, if you will. So it's good to see that Broward County today pushed back against DeSantis's his anti-mask push. And the reality is he's not a medical professional, and we know this is politically driven, but thankfully science and doctors and professionals won today. So it's a beautiful thing. And of course, advocates and activists came out, and Anna, you're just a fierce champion for our children. Thank you so much. And another update, if you will. So the good news is about Florida is vaccinations are also up. That's a wonderful thing. And we do have announced candidates for governor and senator. Now, personally, they're not as progressive as I would like, but it doesn't matter. Get behind them now. Get behind them. The bad news is, unfortunately, COVID cases are up. And we also know, as we heard earlier, DeSantis is playing this game, right? He's not interested in Florida. Let's be clear about that. He is interested in a higher office, and unfortunately, our state is being made to suffer. And just to clarify, our state has more fatalities of COVID than Canada. Again, we have more fatalities of COVID than Canada, and that is even though we have a smaller population. So the people can win Florida. There's no doubt about this. And I want to just take a moment and just have this really honest conversation with all of you. It is my belief that we do not have a democracy problem. Unless you're living under a rock, you might have noticed you might have noticed a heightened sense of apprehension over our democracy, right? Everybody's a little bit nervous about what's happening. A lot of people are claiming that the former president won the 2020 election and that it was somehow stolen. And others claim that we have a democracy problem. And I'm going to disagree with that completely. And you're going to say, wait, what? Lori, you're always championing voting rights and democracy works for all. Why are you saying that Florida does not have a democracy problem? Well, I'm going to tell you, as a mom, I know that when something goes wrong in my home, I have to find the root cause of that problem. Now, sometimes it's something very simple. Sometimes it's something more complex. The second is what I see here in Florida. We are a state of people. Not Democrats, not Republicans. We are a state of moms, dad, abuelas, abuelos, aunties, uncles, and chosen family and friends. Our Florida family has lost its way. We have forgotten that we belong to one another and that we are each other's brothers and sisters keepers. We have wayward leaders that have abandoned our family. We don't have a democracy problem in Florida. We have a senator problem. Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Rick Scott take money from the NRA. They look the other way at the tragedies of Parkland and Pulse. They support troops all around the world and ignore those that stand guard at our capital during an insurrection. Did you know we spend almost $1 billion a day defending this nation's war on terror, and yet we have a crumbling infrastructure with a limited budget for repairs? Children go hungry, seniors skip medicines, and countless people in Florida are dying prematurely because of lack of access to healthcare. Our air and our water are polluted, and yet those most to blame continue to receive tax breaks. Florida, we have a Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Rick Scott problem. Democracy works better when our leaders represent. In my family, we meet our challenges head on. We learn about the issue, we discuss it in debate, and we come together to fix the problem. We need our Florida family, that's all of us here on this call, to do the same. Now, I know there are going to be naysayers that say they've lost hope. I believe the second biggest threat to our Florida family, aside from Rubio and Scott, are the dream busters, those who make excuses not to take action. Lift your head and ignore them. I have hope in you. I have hope in my Florida family. I know we're not perfect. I know we're a work in progress. And I know that Scott and Rubio may or may not change their ways, but I am not going to let their choices talk me out of fighting for this family, and neither should you. So I'm asking for your help to continue to call, click, tweet, keep pushing them and others. You know, also it's equally important that not only are we reaching out to them, but people see us taking this action. And whether you're on social media, you're talking to your friends or family, they need to know that this is why you're fighting, that you're speaking out, because the day we give up is the day, remember the earlier slide, we've given up completely. And I don't think we're at that point. So please, oh, what is all that? Please continue to speak out. One other reminder, in the state of Florida, you know, we've got a beautiful state full of many different viewpoints. We've got 5.2 million Democrats, 5.1 million Republicans, and 3.8 million independents. Those are opportunities to have conversations. You don't always have to convince people. Just have to have a conversation with them. Most people, you can have talks to them about issues. You know, Broward for Progress, we try and stay in the issue lane. Yeah, we might talk about Rubio or Scott once in a while, but we try and stay on issues. Healthcare, our environment, those are things that matter to Floridians. And I would urge all of us to do that. Another reminder in this state, when we're talking about
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Lori, but I'm sorry, but I wanted to share with you all what happened today. A gentleman came in with a poster in his hand. It was rolled up. Nobody knew what it said, but he had a "Make America Great" again hat, so it was like, oh, here we go. Here's a Trumper. He unrolled his poster and it said, "Fire DeSantis." He was there advocating for mask mandates. Now, I do believe personally as a cognitive dissonance, but that was important to him. I don't know why. Maybe it was his grandchildren, maybe somebody he knows close, I don't know what his personal reason is. But what I'm saying is when a man walks in with a "Make America Great" hat again and is on your side, conversations make a difference.
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate, here in Florida, we have over 25 million residents. 21 million of those are eligible to vote. So when you're having a conversation, there's a probability that half the people that you speak to or interact with are non-voters. Public opinion is strong. A lot of times we get in a bubble and think, well, we just need to register voters and get them to the polls and we can change things. The reality is we also have to change public opinion. And there are 25 million people that we need to be having conversations with. And of course, we want some of those 10 million to start voting. But I just want to put it into perspective. Public opinion and conversations that we're having, even if you think about this, let's say the 11 million that voted, they're still impacted by the non-voters in this state. So thinking through, whether they're left, right, or center, it's really critical that we have those deep conversations and that we're showing people that we're fighting on issues and we're having those conversations. And I think this picture really says it all. Like, who is speaking up for Florida? We see people in the headlines and that's all well and good. But the reality is you and I, the people, boots on the ground, we're the ones that need to be speaking loudly and clearly for good policies and for our community. Those are the people that on the right, they're listening to their neighbors, their friends, family. Yeah, media has something to do with it. But a lot of times in Florida, we get caught up in headlines and we forget the reality is a lot of our interactions can be had with the people around us. So please just remember that in communications. When we're talking about jobs, healthcare, education, environment, and justice, those are important issues to Floridians. And those are things that we should all continue to strive. If we're striving for a better democracy, then we want to have those deep issues. I know sometimes it can feel really uncomfortable, but it's important that we continue to reach out to people. A lot of times I hear excuses from people. I like putting this slide up. Oh, if they're not going to move, they don't care. Just focus on voting them out. We don't have enough people. Change isn't going to happen quick enough. Well, to you, if you have any of those excuses, I say step aside because change is going to happen. Change is happening. And I know everybody says it's Florida, but if you have that mindset that we can change things, we can. You just heard today, we did it in Broward County, right, Anna? All right. And
I wanted to say because I organized people to go and talk, and a lot of people told me, you're not going to change their minds. You're not going to, we're literally burning masks in front of the school building. I was like, we don't have to change their minds. We just have to support them because they've already voted on this and they voted yes. And then DeSantis threatened them. And so then there was some backpedaling.
That's right.
If you believe you can, and I'm not saying we're going to win every single battle, but you can't win if you don't fight.
That's right. That's right. And we can grow a movement, and we've been doing amazing things. It's just our little group. And I know there's a lot of other grassroots groups out there and good clubs and caucuses. We can do it if we connect on issues and then we mobilize to vote. And we do that in different ways. We do that with letter writing, phone calls, events, tweet storms, social media, letters to editors, and more importantly, we pull people in. And then that brings me to the next thing that I just want to reiterate. We do this in two ways. We do a lot of it in upcoming events like this. We do events, we connect with people on issues. We have two that I'm going to speak about that are coming up that you might be interested in, one particularly on Thursday. We also do events or call to actions, and call to actions are really important because those are things that you can share out with folks. Their letter writing campaigns, petitions, could be tweet storms or phone storms to senators. Those call to actions give people an opportunity to take action. Not everybody is going to jump in right away to volunteer on a campaign, but if they connect on an issue, they're going to start taking action with that. So our group, we send out call to actions, or as Anna said, the upcoming events, we have a calendar, we send those out. You're welcome to attend or share those out. We are all of our call to action. We do not share the data with anybody, just putting that out there. And you're also able to opt out of our email. So we try and send the calendar once or twice a week, and then call to action, depending on what it is. This week, it was the firestorm of what was happening with the mask in school. But generally, we would just include the link to our website that has many of the call to action, and you can go on and see those. So we'll include that in a follow-up email to you all. So you have that, and you're welcome to share that out, or see if there's something there you want to start talking to neighbors about. Some big ones happening here in Florida right now you should all be aware of is Medicaid expansion. That's part of what we talked about earlier, those big changes in Congress. Medicare expansion, shoring up Medicare. Those two are very big. Environmental issues are huge. So those are things that you can deep dive in your family and have those conversations to take action. People feel empowered when they feel like they see a difference. And that brings me to our two events we have coming up. One
We're
is
not
on
seeing your screen, Lori.
Oh, you're not? What happened
No.
to it? Oh, thank you for telling me that. That's so weird. All right. So one of them coming up is on Thursday. As I mentioned, we're part of the Indivisible Florida Network. I'm really excited. We've got a great panel, four folks coming on our panel for advocacy for home rule and state preemption and why it's harming Florida. That's a big mouthful, but basically it breaks down to what happened earlier today or what's been happening in the state with regards to DeSantis overreaching and trying to tell local school officials what they can and cannot do. So we're going to break down this issue, not just along the lines of school. We're going to break it down on what happened with the gun bans, if you will, or the gun safety laws that have been attempted. So please look out for that. That's this Thursday. I believe it's at 7 o'clock from 7 to 8. We have 4 panelists on there, so you want to jump on that. The other event that we have coming up is in September. Rebecca Jones, if for folks that don't know, she was part of the, she worked for the state of Florida. She ran the COVID dashboard and had a falling out with the governor. Of course, it was in the news. She is now running for Congress. I can tell you that this is not about her candidacy at all. It's not. This is about her story. She's going to be sharing that with folks. So you're welcome to join us for that. And those are two. I just want to see if we did Mike come back? Did we see if he got back on? Don't see.
He's not back on.
He's
And
not
by the
back.
way, Rebecca Jones is running against Matt Gaetz. Just
Oh.
want to throw that out there.
I didn't even know that. I just, all right. Okay. So that is all we have for tonight. We're at 7:20. If you know me, I always try and keep us under an hour. And I want to make sure that we have time for questions if I can. Do we have any? I think I saw a hand. Did anybody message us?
There were hands up earlier. I don't see any hands up right now. So if you want to speak, you can just go ahead and unmute if you have any questions or comments.
I see Susie's hand up. Hey, Susie.
Hi. Sorry,
How are
I can't
you?
play.
No
Okay,
problem.
thanks. How are you?
Good.
When you were going over the the voter suppression tactics,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I heard you talk about the one that the Republicans are putting their own person in at election time. So just in case there is a problem, they can change, certify, throw out anything they want to. And that's like it.
Yeah.
That's the final straw.
Yeah,
We've got to do something.
Yeah, I believe that is something that they're trying to do in Georgia, and the For the People Act would sort of suppress that and not allow them to do that. But yes, that is one of those state laws that they're trying to kind of put around. Now, I haven't gotten to that here in Florida yet, but yes, that's the thing with these really, I call them right-wing Republicans, that they do something in one state and they kind of get away with it, or they kind of do over here. But yeah, that has not come to Florida yet. It has been implemented in Georgia, I believe, or they're trying to do it in Georgia. So
And probably Texas.
Yeah,
Probably Texas. Yeah, I'm sure of it. There's a lot of crap going on.
Yes,
I
there
wonder
is.
what happened with Palm Beach County and the schools.
My
Does anyone
understanding,
know?
was that today? I thought it was tomorrow.
No, Palm
No,
Beach County, they voted for mask mandates with the opt-out. So any parent can sign without a medical note, et cetera, and opt out their children, which is,
Well, I called up my granddaughter's school, and it's a charter school in Boynton Beach. And I spoke to the director of operations, and he said, yes, they put in new filters. And, they're trying to keep the desks away from each other. I said, what about lunchtime? And he kind of changed his tone of voice, because 2 different grades are eating in the cafeteria, and need I say any more? I'm sure that's what's going on in all schools.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's really no
My
reason for
granddaughter-
this. I'm sorry that that happened with Palm Beach, because the reality is, there's no need for this. The rest of the country, around the world, quite frankly, go and see what they're doing in other countries around the world. Everybody else has a stiffer back than Americans, apparently. I mean, they're mandating masks to keep safe. I mean, even our military is now doing this. They recognize how important it is. It's gonna minimize it. So, I mean, we just need to get out of this, because if we continue this polluting Florida, we're gonna constantly be under this threat of COVID, and that just needs to stop. I don't know about all of you, but I want to get back to my life. I'm tired of living like this. I'm tired of living in a state where we're constantly under attack by incompetence. I see another hand up, Reggie. Oh, sorry.
so, no, I'm sorry. I muted Stephen. I muted you because we were hearing an echo. So I just wanted to let you know. So when you unmute yourself, you can.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Reggie. I'm Stephen.
Okay. The other lady, Anna, I think, was talking about the Georgia situation. I am a member of the Georgia Democrats, and I get their emails constantly, and it is disgusting and frightening what they're trying to get away with. And what Anna is saying is true. They're trying to have the say in fact, they were just voted to give the GOP the right to run the election process. And yes, they have what's called, I'm not sure exactly the name, but when electorates are voted in by the people, it is up to the GOP process to accept what the voters voted for or to reject those candidates that the voters voted for. That's how serious this is getting in Georgia. And this, I know, is being followed very closely by Texas and a couple of other states. And that's where the danger is. And I think that if we can get behind Georgia to see how we can help out, because if Georgia can pull that fascist dictation issues this is a very alarming situation for the United States.
That's right. No, it is. It's, sorry, I'm going to mute you there. You're absolutely right. I mean, this is these things that we're seeing now. I mean, we just need to speak to folks and really get them taking action and putting pressure on our lawmakers here in Florida. Particularly, you know, it's not just the 2 senators, you know, we have all our House representatives and our, you know, as I said, that population at large. We need to be speaking to folks why this is dangerous. Because otherwise, why do we even have a democracy? Why do we even vote for, like, if you're thinking of home rule and preemption, why do we even vote for a school board if the governor is just going to take over and do whatever he wants? I mean, what's the point of that? So I'm not ready to give up my voting rights. I don't know about any of you. And I think we just have to become louder and really push people to understand what's at stake. You know, let's be clear, when you say democracy, that's just not a sexy term. You know, people are like, I got work, school, kids. Like that isn't, but if we talk about, you know what, it's really about our lives, right? If you break it down, what is voting? Voting is healthcare. Voting is, you know, immigration reform. Voting is racial justice. Like you've got to break it down on a level that most people can identify with in their heart. That is critical. And we have to do better than just talking about rights and privileges and voting, because it just isn't sexy for that 25 million that live in Florida. Even though I'm a policy nerd and I could talk about this all day long, reality is my neighbor. I got to identify with them and where they're at and meet them where they're at. I see Reggie's hand up. So I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you, Reggie. Hey, Reggie. Reggie, did you have a question? You're going to have to unmute. All right, I'll go to Cree next. You want to go ahead and unmute?
Hi, my name is Cree Ganmore, and a minute ago you said that these people are incompetent. These people are not incompetent. They are highly competent. They are
who's the people? Which people?
We were talking about the government and the people who are deliberately trying to cause harm. These people, you know, I have a father, I'm 65. I have a father who is 97 years old and a stepfather, both of whom fought in World War II to alleviate us of the fascist problem. It's authoritarian. It's like you said, you know, if the governor's going to take over and tell us what to do, why have a school board? That's the whole thought. I don't, you know, last time I looked, we still live in America. Now shut up now. Thanks for letting me say my piece.
Of course, thank you. That's what democracy is about.
And never shut up, by the way. Never shut up.
No, you're one of us. If you know Ann and I, we don't ever. We've got to speak out. This is the time. Like, this is the time. We cannot be quiet. We cannot be silent. And we can never stop. And we can never cower to a bully. Ever. Ever. And you know what? Not going to stop. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I see Asher. Asher, if you want to go ahead and.
Yeah, I know it's 7:30, so I'll just be quick. But I know you discussed about like talking to issues about with the issues going on in state and just in general to friends. And I'm wondering how you'd go about like doing that, just bringing up tough topics like climate change and voting rights. And also if you would say, if you think we should like talk a little bit about politically, because we obviously know that Rick Scott, Governor DeSantis, and Marco Rubio don't care about voting rights or climate change, all the issues that I'm sure people on this call care about. So, yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think, I don't know, I'm gonna say you're a little bit younger than me. And I think you bring up a great question in talking to our peers and people around us. And one of the things that I would think of is, particularly here in Florida, regardless of your age, we all care about our environment, our beaches, our beautiful beaches, and our tourism in this state. And the reality is when we have a governor and senators that are ignoring, you know, the dead fish on our beaches, the the red tide, the green algae, the increase of severe storms to our state, the water table raising, the flooding that is happening, the erosion of our beaches. This is serious. And I will just say that is so scary to think about, but even more scary than that is the job losses. Think about the amount of job opportunities and the losses that we lose in this state because of climate crisis. And in addition to that, think about how much opportunity we could have if we really were the Sunshine State. Imagine if we were solar, like that would be just amazing. If we were just, oh my goodness, solar, 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 up and down the state, in our houses and cars and everything. We could lead the entire nation. Our beautiful beaches and solar opportunity, that is what we want. And why do we have leaders that are not championing this, like day in and day out, finding ways? You know, one thing I have to say about Texas, and you can look this up, they have a little area there, they went solar. There was a municipal Republican led, they investigated how they could in their area do a solar like grid system in their small town. So it can be done. It's very friendly, regardless of what side you're on. And we need to champion for that. So that is something. And then healthcare is critical. There is no reason. I'm just going to please remember, if you remember anything, you see my fingers there, 2 people in this country, 2 have the same amount of wealth as the bottom 40%. 2 people in this nation have the same amount as the bottom 40%. And so the reality is there's nobody in this country, if you're going to proclaim that we are the greatest nation on earth, how can we proclaim that we are the greatest nation on earth with such poverty? How can we claim that we are the greatest nation on earth if most of our people can't have affordable healthcare or affordable housing? That's just not acceptable. So we have to hold any leader, regardless of where they are, we have to hold them to account that if you're going to champion for the people, you better put our environment, our healthcare, our jobs at the top of your list. And I don't care where you line up. If you're not speaking out for the people, then you need to step aside and we will elect people in there that will do it. Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Oren next.
Hi. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it, Lori.
I'm happy to have you here with us.
So I'm simpatico with all the issues that you're talking about. I joined this call because I'm really focused right now on the voting rights. And I really understand that it really boils down to getting rid of the filibuster and getting Manchin and Sinema to be pressured into joining the other 48 Democrats. But what I'm having a hard time finding, and maybe you could circulate so there could be an action point from this, is if we want to support groups that are out there pressuring Sinema and Manchin, which groups are they? I would like to be able to focus in on those groups that are putting up billboards in their districts and putting the pressure on them to get the filibuster removed, at least for voting.
Oh, hang on one second. I'm sorry. I've got to unmute you, Oren. If you can unmute. We had some background, so I muted some folks.
Okay, did you hear?
Yeah, you were asking which groups.
Yeah, I mean, I would make contributions to organizations that are specifically targeting Manchin and Sinema so that we can get that filibuster, because Biden can't do anything without 50 votes. And it's going to come down to that. Once we bide our time and the Republicans prove they have no interest in working with us, it's going to come down to those 2 folks. And that's going to decide everything, because voting rights is going to determine the next election.
Oh, absolutely. Great question. Absolutely. I will tell you.
Groups to support.
Absolutely. I will tell you there is a couple of groups right now that have folks that are calling in. Now, one thing I know people have asked us before, should we get on those phone banks that are calling in? No, we want to be calling in Florida. I know it doesn't make sense, but we want to support financially groups that are doing the work on the ground in those states. So Public Citizen is a great one. They work with local teams in West Virginia as well as Arizona. Move On always does some amazing work working with local partners as well. I'm a big Move On fan, if you know me. Public Citizen Move On. Center for Popular Democracy is another one. They also work with local. I'll include this in the follow-up. All of you on here, I have your email now, so you're going to get a follow-up email in the morning. You'll have access to the slide presentation. You'll have access to this call. We'll have access to follow-up notes, and then you'll have our contact information. You know, we don't have all the answers. We're 100% grassroots. But we believe in trying to help our community and helping our state. I am particular that I know that if I help Northern Florida, it's all going to trickle back down to Broward County and vice versa. And the good news is there is change happening in Florida. Trust you. It may not seem like it at times, and it might seem like we're not stepping forward, but we are. We're stepping forward. So great question.
Lori, please include our Reverend Barber with the Poor People's Campaign.
Oh, thank you.
And
Yes,
also,
yes.
Beto O'Rourke from Texas.
Who said that? Who said
this is Linda. This is Linda.
Oh my God, yes, Linda. Thank you so much for that.
And also Anna, that school board member was Murphy. Say, bring it.
I loved it. I was like, yes. But, you know, speaking of the school board, I'm reading now, somebody had just sent me a letter from the Department of Education from Commissioner Richard Cochran, who is immediately initiating an investigation of noncompliance with rules adopted for the Florida. I cannot believe that somebody wants to make our children sick.
Remember, he is also very heavily invested in some of these private charters. So there's a monetary financial incentive for some of these.
What price do you put on a 5-year-old's life?
Yeah.
He's giving them till Friday at 5 o'clock. So just so you all know, the fight, we got to continue to support our school board members.
And not just here. He's resigning soon, and the new superintendent. Oh, well, maybe you have a different one than we do up here. Okay, forget it.
No, well, we do need to, though, put pressure on all school boards and all around Florida. Yeah. So even though, like, for example, the school boards or Hillsborough started up, doesn't mean they can't change their opinion. So, you know, if you've got school boards in your area and you want us to add them to our letter campaign that is going into their email boxes, just reach out to myself and we'll be happy to add them in there. I'm going to go now to Gloria. I'm going to go ahead, Gloria, if you want to go ahead and unmute. Oh, what happened to her?
Hi. Okay. I saw an ad or something. This is from Robert Reich, the labor secretary, labor secretary.
Former labor secretary.
Yeah. He said that in response to McConnell's complaint about something being a power grab, he responded, "You're right. This is a power grab by the people. Support S1." So if we could amplify that message, if we could adapt his message so that we could do a Twitter storm. Did you see that?
I haven't been on my email today, but just like Linda was talking about the Poor People's Campaign, I'll include the link to anything Robert Reich does. I tell you, my two that I go to every single day to see what they're doing is Reverend Barber and Robert Reich. So please, we'll look in to see what their messaging is. Those are really good sources. Thank you for sharing that, Gloria.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I really loved it.
Thank you. Yeah, you're all going to hear from us. We'll be doing a Twitter storm soon. So stay tuned. I'm going to ask Richard, I'm sorry, Richard, if you want to go ahead and go off mute. Robert, I think it was.
Richard, you're speaking, but you're muted.
Yeah. Am I okay now?
Yeah, you are. There you go. Hi, Richard.
All right. I'm an extreme novice to this whole deal. The only thing I can say is I'm pissed off beyond belief. I am pissed.
Place.
I've called Rubio up several times, and I didn't use any expletives at all. I was a clean machine. and I didn't want to talk to any of the underlings because I have tried that, and they're like la-di-da. And, I didn't want to waste my time. My question is there a way that we can sort of corner these people by the legality issue? What does the Constitution say about the government DeSantis, his authority, and what he can do and what he can't do? What about Rick Scott, who's a billionaire, by the way? And I walked up to him in a restaurant. I'm in Naples, Florida, and I said, Governor Scott, and they were all the Secret Service, and they were all these young Secret Service, and they kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry, you muted, Richard. If you want to unmute, I apologize. So you went on mute. Yeah, there you go.
Did I do it? Okay. They're impervious by design. Somebody, a very nice person, said they're not stupid, these people. I'll agree to some extent. They're shrouded by a stupid allegiance to their political lords, if you want to say, political masters. What I don't know, you folks are probably hip to all this, but someone like Lawrence Tribe or a great lawyer could probably find fault with Governor DeSantis in many respects, because he's not a very smart guy. He's a plant by Trump. Some of these, they're not smart. They're stupid.
Yeah.
All right.
So you bring up a good question. And I know I've seen on social media, a lot of times they'll see impeach DeSantis or whatever. The one thing that unfortunately, I think we all have to remember is that our system of justice is slow. And we can get more done quicker by mobilizing to a school board like we did today and making noise and those petitions and letters and phone calls and showing up quicker than trying to go through the court system and suing DeSantis to undo. If public pressure across Florida is on him, he will do an about face. Let me tell you, he got a lot of pushback when he said that he was going to defund the schools. That's when Corcoran and his cronies decided, you know what, let's see if we can do this charter robbed from the piggy bank of the Hope Scholarship Fund and allow parents that route. So
I think DeSantis has already been sued.
Well, yes, there will be
Can I
lawsuits.
just say something that I heard today?
Let me
Okay.
finish.
Okay.
There will be lawsuits, that make no mistake, but let's be clear. If you and I and all of us on here want change, the quickest route is not going to be the lawsuits. The quickest route is us getting loud and getting more people and taking action. So those letters, calls, really putting pressure. You know, there's a reason why the Affordable Care Act was not undone. It's because millions of us mobilized, called, emailed, and showed up. Now, I'm not saying that lawsuits, I mean, we're still waiting to find out what's happening with the preemption around gun safety. We're still waiting, 6 years in on a lawsuit having to do with gerrymandering. Lawsuits have an important place, but be aware they take a long time, and he could be out of office as our current, as our former president, and we're all seeing this, is out of office. We're still waiting for justice to be served. So unfortunately, the only way, the quickest way that we have to impact change is really to be vocal, loud, and do what you're doing. And I applaud you. I'm pissed. If you know me, that's what got me out. I'm known as pissed off mom, because how dare you take away the rights and privileges of my children or any child? It's sad to think that our children have less opportunity, less rights and privileges than when we grew up. And aren't we always supposed to strive that our children do better? So now we're in a world where we're leaving them dead fish, no healthcare, no job opportunities. Like, that's not acceptable. And I'm sorry, I will go back to, I don't see a hand, but I know Susie's had something. And then
I just want to say something. Today, I was watching something, I don't even know what it was, but somebody asked him the question, what can you do about suing DeSantis? And somebody did answer, the president is working on it. So that's a good thing.
That is a good
That's a
thing.
good thing.
That is a good thing. All right. Any other questions? And I know we went a little over, but you know, this is kind of a heated time in our democracy in Florida and everything. So I hope
Kelly has a
gotta
question.
leave.
Oh, she does.
Okay.
Hang on. Let me find her.
Ed Kelly.
And Steve.
Okay, real quickly, this is my first time on a call like this. Is there a name to this group? You referenced a website. What will be the URL? And then also in that tomorrow morning email that you send out, do you have a bulletized list of highlights of the For the People Act that would be helpful for any of us to have? Detailed highlights of the For the People Act would be helpful.
You're muted, Lori.
Sorry, because there was like a echo there. Yes, you will have that tomorrow. So our group, Ann and I, we co-lead what's called Broward for Progress. We also, with some folks that I see on here, others, we mobilize under Florida Voices for Progress. So depending if we're doing Broward Action, we'll be under that. If we're doing a statewide, it's under Florida Voices. So you could get, probably most likely the email would be coming from Broward for Progress. Sometimes it'll be Broward Actions and sometimes it'll be statewide. But tomorrow's email will be a follow-up on this call. You'll have a link to this recording, the presentation. You'll have the bullet points of what the For the People Act is. You'll have the next steps if you want to contact them about the filibuster or you want to contact them about the Thrive opportunity. You will have all of that information. You'll also be on now our weekly email. So you'll get our weekly updates for events. That usually goes out Sunday or Monday. So you'll see what events are happening under our group or the Florida Voices, or sometimes we share partner events as well, like the Indivisible Florida Network, labor, we may share theirs, depending on something that we think can help the state. So we will share that with our list as well. And then additionally, we will share what's called call to actions. And those would be letters or petitions. Like right now, the big one this week has been that letter writing campaign going into, it actually went to the Florida lawmakers as well as to some school boards advocating for masks for our children. That was a strong call to action that we asked people to do. And I want to again reiterate, we do not share with anybody our data. So when you sign a letter or petition that we have, we do not share that information at all. Our purposes is only to share those call to actions and events. We have no interest in sharing. We will never share your data. We're not running for office. We're just community members. We're moms and we want to make a change. We want this state to be different. So please know that. And if you want to opt out of the emails, you're always welcome to do that. So you will get that tomorrow morning. Oh, I see one other hand there. Stephen, you want to go ahead?
I want to go back to the For the People Act.
Yes, sir.
With some explanation.
Yes.
Right now, supposedly, there is close voting to get the initial Infrastructure Act passed. The, bridges, roads, highways, blah, blah, blah. And then the Democrats want to have an expanded Infrastructure Act to include these things like Medicare and Medicaid expansion, climate change. So is there a tie between the Florida For the People Act and the expanded Infrastructure Act?
So sorry, there's mute you there. So there is, so just so we're clear, the For the People Act is about voting rights and all of that. Additionally, what is happening in Congress right now is the infrastructure and the Build Back Better bill, if you will. And so I spoke about that earlier, but the timeline right now, earlier today, the Senate voted for the infrastructure bill. That's amazing. That's a great thing, but that's not enough. That is definitely not enough for what we need to do. And therefore, the Senate and the House are pushing hard with I think it's $3.5 trillion. I know progressives want it to be more, but there's going to be a battle, if you will. And in that $3.5 trillion is things like the high-speed rail, which we're one of the only nations in the world, a civilized nation that doesn't have high-speed rail. In there is, money set aside for the care economy. Again, we're one of the few civilized nations in the world that doesn't have a care economy set aside. There's money in there for, we heard earlier, early development and, extra money for healthcare and all of that. So here in Florida, there are some things in there that, number one, to me, my number one heart issue is immigration. It is, I want to be clear. The Dreamers are not somebody else's children. Those are our children. When you look around in 20 people, 5 out of 20 people, those folks are immigrants recent. They impact our state's economy. These are our neighbors, our friends, people we go to church with. We do not want them deported. We're already having a labor shortage. We need these people to live in our country. They've been living here for 10, 20, 30 years. There's no reason why we cannot do this, and we need to do this now. So that is part of this push, if you will. And so if you're making that call, what I'm saying to you is if you're going to make that call for democracy and you're calling these folks our senators, please make that plea for immigration reform. Please make the plea for unions. Please make the plea for the Secure Act, which ensures TPS for folks that need that. There are so many good bills now that we've been waiting for months, in some cases years. This is the time to do this. So you'll get that tomorrow. You'll see the bills in there in addition to the For the People Act. But you know what? I'm all about multitasking. So we're going to be calling in for the People or emailing, and please, almost every day, if you're part of our group, we tell you put their 2 numbers on here, or actually one, just call the Senate switchboard twice a day, just ring through. They pay attention to the call volume. It does make a difference. So hope that answers your question, Stephen. All right. Any other questions? See any other arms up? I want to say hi to Barbara. I looked for you earlier. Hey, Barbara. Going to unmute and tell me how are you guys doing up there?
There
she is.
Trying not to leave my house.
I know.
It is so bad here.
Really?
It's so bad. Yeah. Yeah. I think we're the epicenter of the epicenter now.
Barbara is in Central Florida, and I think you are. You guys' positivity rates are through the roof.
It's insane. It's insane.
So I want to ask, tell us what you're fighting for democracy, because you and I had a really personal conversation once, and I was always really moved by your fight. So would you be willing to share with folks why you fight so hard?
I could have probably added 5 more things to that list since I've talked to you about it. There's just so much, I do know this. Every time I want to back down, I hear my father in my ears saying, "You're a Woods. We don't cower. We get up and move forward." And my daughter lives up by Dixie County, and her town got flooded out. Her house just happens to be up on some pegs. Not pegs, but I don't know how they make those things up there. So they had people trying to get the horses and the dogs and the chickens. And so it's a whole lot that I'm fighting for. It's so much. It's my grandkids. It's my country. I have to tell you this. I made a Facebook page. I made a post 10 years ago in 2011. And it wasn't even as deep as it is today. And I found it. You know how it comes up in your things? I hate Facebook, but every once in a while I go there. My family's there. So So it came up in my feed, and I literally was talking about there was a woman in trouble. I've known her my whole life. I've fought for her. I used my voice for her, all of these things. And then it gets down to the last words, and the last words are that woman is America. And this was in 2011. So I can't even, there's been so much since then. I can't even get to 2011 and even remember what it was because there's been so much since then.
Wow.
So
Well,
I
thank
try
you
to
for,
get up. I try to get up every day. Don't take that in any way as a negative, because I get up every day and I fight another inch. And it's inch by inch and then foot by foot. And then, you know, hopefully he's running from our voices.
well, I think we can make some noise. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for fighting hard. I'm sorry we all didn't hear from Mike, but I know he's had internet issues before, so really want you to hear from him. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. I see one last hand up. I'm going to take Elaine. She'll be the last one, then we'll close this out. Hey, Elaine.
While Elaine's unmuting, I just want to let you all know about Elaine Kahn. I met her, and the day I met her, I told her we would be friends for life. I love her. I met her after one of the hurricanes. We both volunteered with the Red Cross to help out. And she showed up with what she called her protest bag. And she went, darling, you need a protest bag, and you always need some red lipstick in your protest bag in case the news crew comes to interview you. I just wanted to share my little Elaine story.
Elaine's a fire pistol. She's something. Hey, Elaine, how are you?
I'm fine, and I've been doing this since 1966. What do you want? Anyway, I thought of something when you were talking about calling senators and different people and all these things we have to say to them. I personally have found out, because I could talk forever, that I have a list of my things, but I only try to dwell on 1 or 2 issues at a phone call, because I call every day. And I don't want to get, you know, all mixed up in this and that and this, and you should do that. And I find if I target just a couple of issues every day, I seem to get further along.
Oh, I think that's a good strategy. I definitely do. And we will present a smorgasbord. So some people may like 1 or 2 of those smorgasbord ideas, but when you call back the next day, if you want to stay on that issue, absolutely. But I agree with you. I usually pick 1 or 2 and just drill down what I want and what I think is important. And that's a good point. And I've got to reiterate what Anna said. I'm so grateful that we came into contact with you, because you were just really the epitome of the fight that we have in Florida. You don't back down. She's wicked smart on social media. If you're not Facebook friends with her, you want to be, because she's funny. You make me laugh several times a day. I thank you so much for your voice, and I'm really grateful to be in this fight with you, Elaine.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all of you too, especially what you do.
Thank you. All right, everybody, thank you for coming out to our rally. I'm sorry we went a little over, but we had a lot of issues. So I want, if you take away anything, is remind our senators, recess can wait, democracy cannot. They need to fight. They're gonna hunker down, and they're gonna try and filibuster democracy reform. That is not acceptable. Reach out, get your folks calling, making calls. And by the way, I did not mention, I should have, that infrastructure bill that did pass today, unfortunately, both of our senators voted against it. So even though it was a bipartisan, there were some good, some folks that voted. There was a bipartisan effort. Our 2 senators in Florida did not. And those are jobs and opportunities in Florida, and they voted against it. Shame on them. So thank you all for coming out tonight, and you'll get the email tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming out.